I'm going to work through a couple of the problems that are on the class kick, and I'm going to start with number one. Just to give myself a little room, I'm going to pinch it in a little bit. Okay, so the first thing you'll see is this note up here that on almost all of them you're going to have to do your GCF and then factor further. So when I look at this one, I notice they're both even, so I know I can pull out a 2, and I think that's going to be it. So I'm going to pull out the 2. And 98 divided by 2 is 49 n squared, minus 200 divided by 2 is 100. And then this that's left in here, so this part right here, is now difference of squares. So the 2 needs to stay there. My a is the square root of 49 n squared, which is 7n. My b is 10, square root of 100. And I'm using difference of squares. You don't have to write this part, but if you didn't remember what difference of squares is, that's that. So it's going to be a plus b, a minus b. And that's our answer. So when I say you need to do the GCF and then factor further, here I pulled out the 2, that's the GCF, and then I did difference of squares. That's the factor further. Number 2 is going to be the same. So just a little hint on this one. Number 2, you're going to pull out the GCF, which is going to be 36, I think. Let's see, 400 divided by 36. No, it's going to be 4. You're going to pull out 4, and then you're going to do difference of squares again. You can either pause and do that one, or watch the rest of the video and then come back. Okay. On number 3, we're also going to pull out the GCF, and then what we're going to be left with is a trinomial. So this one, they all end in 0, so it's going to have a 10 as my GCF. And then I'm going to divide each of them through by 10. So I'm going to get n squared plus 10n plus 25. And then I do recognize that as a perfect square trinomial. So if you recognize it as a perfect square trinomial, go ahead and factor that. Or you can say 1 times 25 is 25. I want to multiply to 25 and add to 10. That's that factors of B, I'm sorry, factors of AC that add to B. And that would be 5 times 5. Okay, now here's the thing. Because my leading coefficient is 1, I get to do the little shortcut method. And then plus 5 plus 5. Or if you had recognized it as perfect square trinomial, you would have done it as 10 times n plus 5 squared. Either one is fine. Okay, you don't have to have both, one or the other. Okay, pause if you need to. I'm going to move on to number 4. Number 4. So again, I'm going to pull out the GCF. Guys, look, this time there's a p in common as well. So they both end in 0, so I'm going to pull out a 10 and then a p. Remember, when you pull out the GCF with a variable, it's always going to be your smallest exponent that gets pulled out. So I'm going to divide by 10p, divide by 10p, and I get p squared minus 196. And then 196 is a perfect square. It's the square root of 14. So this is now going to be difference of squares. P plus 14, P minus 14. And then I'm done. So I pulled out the GCF of 10P, and then I did difference of squares. Pulled out the GCF and then did difference of squares. Pause here if you need to. I'm going to move on to number 5. So looking at number 5, I'm going to make a note, but I'm not going to do this one for you. You're going to pull out your GCF. And your GCF this time is going to be 9 and then v squared. So you're going to pull out 9v squared. And then what you're going to be left with is going to be a difference of squares. That's going to be difference of squares. Okay? Pause and do it now or do it later, whichever makes you happy. I'm going to go to number 6. And again, I'm going to make a note, but I'm not going to work this one. You're going to pull out the GCF, which is going to be 3. And then you're going to factor the trinomial. Actually, you know what you're going to do then? You're going to rearrange. Let's actually do that first. You're going to rearrange to standard form. Then you're going to do GCF. Then, I don't know why it's not letting me. Then you're going to factor the trinomial. And you'll be able to do the shortcut method. So that's what you'll do there. Again, pause and do it now, or come back to it later. I'm going to look at number 7. Okay, so on number 7, I'm going to work this one. First, we're going to start with the GCF. I'm looking at it. They're both divisible by 2. And then that's it. And then x. So first, I'm going to pull out my GCF, which is going to be 2x. Dividing by 2x, dividing by 2x. I'm going to get 125x cubed, and then plus 128 divided by 2 is going to give me 64, and then the x's will cancel. Now, this time what I'm left with, this part here, this time this is sum, because it's an addition of cubes, because they're both perfect cubes. You can look at the exponent on your x to see that. It's a 3, so it's not going to be a perfect square, it's going to be a perfect cube, and 125 and 64 are both perfect cubes. So I'm using this one, a squared minus ab plus b squared. And I find a and b by taking the cubed root. What multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 125. What multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 64. Okay, and then I'm going to plug in. So keep your 2x, don't forget your 2x. And then, I'm sorry, I forgot my x on the a. The a is going to be 5x cubed. So 5x plus 4. Now be careful here. A squared, that's 5x times 5x. That's 25x squared. Minus a times b, that's 5x times 4, so minus 20x. And then b squared, that's 4 squared, which is 16. So that's my answer. Pause if you need to. I'm going to look at number 8. And in number 8, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to do the GCF, which is just going to be x. Remember, when you do that second term, it's x divided by x, that's 1. So you're going to get x times 8x cubed plus 1. That's what you're going to get. And then you're going to do sum of cubes again. Doesn't let me zoom like that. Okay. And then pause and do it, or move on and come back to it. All right. On number 9, we're going to do the GCF. So on this one, the GCF is going to be 2, does not go 3, does. The GCF is going to be 3 and y, 3y. And then what you're going to be left with is going to be sum of cubes. Okay. And then pause it if you need to. And then number 10, 4 terms. So for this one, I'm going to box it. I'm going to do number 10. When you have 4 terms, start by boxing it. It's not always going to work. We'll talk about what happens if it doesn't work next week. Okay, pulling out the GCF. This has an x in common. This has a 3. This has an x squared. And this has a 4. And the 4x is negative, so that's negative. So this is going to factor to x plus 3 times x squared minus 4. But wait, you're not done. You're not done, you're not done, you're not done. This is difference of squares. So you got to finish it. X plus 3, x plus 2, x minus 2. Now I'm done. Okay, so that is the assignment for the review of factoring. Hopefully that helps you get started for those of you that are having trouble, and then we'll check correct the rest at a later point.